Well, good afternoon. I'm Gloria Nelson with TUG, and we're so glad to have you join us today for our TUG Connects 365 programming. As you get settled in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, let me give a brief introduction for TUG, theusergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community of Infor distribution software users. Now, we've all heard that phrase, knowledge is power, and that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up with a bit more of both tomorrow. And today is but one of our many in-depth sessions in our TUG Connects 365 series. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events facilitate the timely exchange of ideas and information to help you work smarter and with more confidence. Now, that's a powerful combination. If you're currently a member, it pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, please visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do. Now, before we get started, I just want to touch base on some housekeeping information. Buckle up for about 35 minutes. We will have ample time for Q&A. So make sure you drop your questions into the Q&A bubble on your toolbar and feel free to comment and share insights with those of you online in the chat. I'm sure you'll find many friends here that you haven't seen since our last live TUG event. We monitor that as well. And you're in control of your view. So if you go to the upper right corner of your screen, you can select on how you wish to show the presentation in the side view, standard view, or speaker view. And now, without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Tony Palermo, UniLink's Marketing Director. Tony, go ahead and take it away.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
And I have you in our sight lines. And with that, I'm going to jump off camera and it's all yours.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone at TUG. And thank you, all the attendees, for taking time out of your day to listen to our message. My name is Tony Palermo. I've been in the business world for too many years. And over the last 6 years, I've been focusing on EDI services as the Director of Marketing for UniLink. Joining me today is Phil Harley. He's the smarter of the two, and you can tell by his description here, he's focused on software architecture, programming, and EDI management. So the agenda for this afternoon is we're going to talk a little bit about manual input and why we shouldn't be in manual mode in this day and age. And where does an EDI partner fit? What are the trends? Talk a little bit about total cost of ownership, and then the elements of a successful EDI solution. So in way of introduction, UniLink is a 100% SaaS EDI solution. We were SaaS even before SaaS was identified. So we were always in a SaaS technical model. We've been an Infor delivery partner for many years, and it's actually over 22 years of EDI success in this space. Let's talk a little bit about manual processes, because I listened to a couple of WebExes over the last several weeks, and there's still a lot of inference that a lot of companies are still in mostly, if not all, manual processing. You know, we know how complex that is. We know about accuracy issues and inefficiencies, and we also know about cost, which we'll dive into. EDI's direct benefits are all of those issues go away. And at the end of the day, your company is more competitive. And I would even say in this day and age, EDI, electronic communication with customers and partners and vendors, is table stakes. So if we look at the manual processing full cost, and we've done studies on this for years, and the number that we settle on is it costs about $15 to process a PO manually. And some people have challenged that, and they said, no, you really should do it by line item. And so with Honeywell, we looked at a year's worth of POs, and we recalculated it based on line item, and we came back to around the $15 mark. Now you can argue whether it's 12 or it's 17, but it is certainly a many times multiple of the transaction cost of doing business with a third party company like UniLink. So what we find out there today is that we find some companies that have limited to no implementation. If they have connections, it's only a few, it's only to a few vendors. And as it says in the middle, you come in kicking and screaming, and that a lot of companies said, listen, you're going to have to work with us on an electronic basis or not at all. It's always been tactical, not strategic. And a lot of people have focused on the expense saving effort alone. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of money to be saved, but there are also other benefits as far as competitiveness, sales, inventory turns, the cost of errors. So we're at a point for question and answer, and do we have any questions at this time?
Phil, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, I believe you have a question for the first break.
Yes. How can you proceed without an IT project defined for this?
Well, there's two aspects of that. One is from a cost standpoint, there are no costs involved until you're actually in production. So it is guaranteed that you're going to have a successful connection to your trading partners and customers. And as far as an IT project, it's going to have some IT time related to the project, but it's very minimal. In the implementation phase, when we first connect our service to your data center over to our data center, there is some IT time required for the initial mapping and testing. But after that, the hard work is getting in touch with all of the trading partners and making sure that we're able to customize whatever needs to be done in our maps to fit their needs, so that we can get a very high adoption rate. And the adoption rate is very important to the overall process. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, so what are the options? I mean, the options are do it in-house. There are some web EDI products out there. And then there's managed services. And there are several companies out there like UniLink that provide all the ongoing EDI support, all the maintenance services, a very, very high percentage of the individual cases that may come up when a trading partner changes an item on their end or changes an element in their database. The transaction gets rejected. We see that, we go in, we contact the trading partner, correct it, and oftentimes those issues are solved before your company even sees that the transaction failed. So those are the three choices. If you're looking at an EDI partnership option, I would say there are four very important criteria that you have to look at. Number one, it has to be end-to-end one source. In the world that I came from in the software business, it used to be called one neck to choke. One person responsible for the overall day-to-day success of your EDI program. The second is rookies are not invited. You have to be a trusted, proven provider with years of experience and success in the implementation phase as well as the ongoing production phase. The third is the company has to have an extreme reputation for customer care and customer sat, because this is very important information that you are exchanging, and only the best will be tolerated. And a company that's forward-looking, looking at all the compliant factors with standards and protocols that may change in the future. So those are the four really important bookends. So the other criteria that matters is guaranteed success. Again, no money changes hands, no billing is done by us unless we see guaranteed success. There's no capex. We have a very well-defined implementation plan that frees up your resources. It doesn't burden your resources. We take on the responsibility of the ongoing coordination with all the trading partners. And we can sit in the line of the exception reporting process, and that can be customized by you in our portal on who gets notified when there is an exception and who takes the first step. So if we look at some of the recent trends, there's no doubt that the core four takes 80% and 90% of the transaction types, and that's the PO, invoice, PO acknowledgement, advanced ship notice. And again, it's more than just the expense that's saved, it's the experience. We're all pretty well settled into the big box experience. Anytime you order anything personally, you can shop, you can select, you get an acknowledgement, you get an advanced shipping notice, and sometimes the invoice comes first and sometimes the invoice comes last, but that's just the order of processing. So we're used to that. Your customers are used to that, and they want that same experience. So I think people that are in fact electronically connected to their customers and to their vendors have the opportunity to expand their current sales, because those companies are going to want to select your company because it's easier to process an order and to get information back on that order. And I would call that a competitive advantage. The other thing I would say is that, connection to all these big box stores is very important. And I'm happy to say that we have connections with every big box store that we can think of. And if there's one that we can't think of, then we'll be happy to add that to our inventory. Why don't we stop and do polling question 1? Not that complex of a question. Do we have it?
We are only at 62% of audience participation right now with everyone online, and it would be great if we can get to at least 75%. So for those of you that have not yet responded, if you want to jump on out, there's no one that's going to be tracking you or anything like that. This is just to get an idea of our audience. So we're going to give it just a couple more seconds. So if you can jump on with your response, that would be very appreciated. And we will close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Okay. Wow, 68% are still in manual, or your company's still in manual mode. Yes, 32% are still in complete manual mode. Okay. All right, so you have to look at also the in-house option, and the in-house option has software and hardware and the associated fees, making sure that you stay compatible, making sure you're on the upgrade path. In-house personnel is probably one of the biggest ones because people don't choose this as a career in the EDI space within your company. If they do well, before long, they're going on to another assignment within the company, or they leave the company, and you're constantly having to retrain personnel. And it takes, to do this in-house, it's going to take somebody 6 months to be completely up to speed. And if you do the math on that, it's extremely expensive. And then there's, of course, the The support and monitoring, which requires a minimum of a full-time person to do all the monitoring and all the support, that goes down to a very small fraction of one person in a managed service situation. And implementation, the cost of that, the cost of working on this project instead of working on revenue generating projects that are probably stacked up in your IT department, make a big difference. Not to mention the fact that all of your order processing people, a lot of them can be repurposed because the processing becomes more streamlined and certainly simpler with fewer errors. So van fees, you have to pay van fees, which will range depending upon the volume. Mapping software, we talked a little bit about employees and their salaries, and if they're always in training, the cost of that, and of course the cost of production management and coordination. So all those have to be taken into consideration, and I really haven't seen a business case yet that hasn't financially benefited doing this as a outsourced service instead of on an internal basis. So the clear cost of outsourced service is that everything is included. Fraction of the cost of translation, and certainly only a part-time person needs to be in on the process. So you save at least a person and a half in time. So the outsourced service strategic benefits, we talked about this. There's no capital outlay, which I think is very important. I think doing business with a company that maintains their business focus, like with UniLink, this is all we do. We don't have 25 different products that we have to spread our resources across. We are focused on EDI transaction processing. We're adaptable. We do all the transaction types that are out there. If there's any new transaction types that come about, again, we will add those to our inventory. And we also monitor and participate in all the ERP upgrades. And again, we talked about customer service differentiation. I kind of think that's becoming more and more important, especially as we manage through this disruptive time. I think coming out the other end is going to be the new normal, not the old normal. And the new normal is, this is going to be table stakes. Not to mention the ROI. The ROI kind of gets a little bit ridiculous because in most cases, depending upon your assumption on the cost for each transaction to do manually versus in an automated fashion, the ROI in some cases is a matter of months. Certainly, it's not more than 6 months in any case. I think we also understand the EDI coordinator's responsibility, the challenges that they face, meeting enablement times. We can shift and put multiple people on a project in dealing with your trading partners if we're in a shorter window of time frame where we have to be up in production. And proper monitoring of that production data. We have eyes and alerts on it constantly. And again, we mentioned keeping up with EDI technology, and business continuity is a big deal. We're housed in state-of-the-art data centers that have all of the continuity, all of the backup protection that you would expect in a critical service like this. So we're at another question point. If we have any questions, this would be a good time. And if not, we'll proceed.
Tony, if you want to jump back on camera and unmute yourself, I believe there's one question that's waiting for you, Tony.
Tony or Phil?
I mean, for you, that Phil's going to present.
Okay.
So Phil, there he comes.
So how long does it take from the time that they sign the contract to being in production?
Okay, that's also a great question. Certainly, there's some factors that come into play, and that is your trading partner participation and their excitement to provide the information it takes to get them connected. Of course, the first thing we would do is establish the connection between you and us for each of the forms that you want to process. So depending upon the number of trading partners that you have, we're talking about weeks, not months. And normally we suggest adding trading partners that do the most volume with you first, because then you'll actually see the impact it has on your business, on the order processing department. You'll see how successful this world is and how easy it is for us to manage that for you. So it's weeks, not months, and then it's continual after that. As you add customers, as you add trading partners, you bring us in on the conversation at the right time, and then we start working on that and do all the testing and put those into production.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. So if there's not any other questions, we'll move on. So we have a function called Smart Maps, and that allows us to embed business logic to incorporate any unique processes, any internal rules that you may have or that one of your trading partners may have. And the reason why that's important is a lot of times implementation gets hung up because a vendor or a customer does something a certain way and doesn't necessarily match the out-of-the-box vanilla EDI process. So through our smart maps, we're able to adjust and make those rules and incorporate those rules into the mapping process itself, so that your customer, your trading partner, and I'm just going to say trading partners from now on, your trading partners don't have to make any changes on their end. And we take almost any type of electronic format from a trading partner. We'll get into those towards the end, but there hasn't been an electronic standard format that we have not been able to properly process and put into the EDI process. So it's a standard feature with our mapping software, and it has proven extremely successful with extremely complex deployments. For instance, in the automotive space, we have a technician that lives in Detroit, and some of the complexity that is involved in vendors supplying parts and to the automotive industry is extremely complex, and we have been able to handle all of those business rules. So we also enhance your network. We're able to accommodate cross-reference for mutual ship tos, handling drop ships, product number conversions, date offsets, unit of measure, complete with all the necessary conversion calculations, and any other type of custom or cross-reference conversions. All of those are accommodated in the smart map itself. So, and when we talked about the extension of the value to your customers, a lot of people think of EDI in the forms of dealing with their vendors. But it's also very important because you're a vendor to your customer, and it goes back the other way also in being able to offer this service to your customers, sending invoices, advanced ship noticing, PO acknowledgements. The whole process goes much quicker, and certainly streamlines your processing while offering a service that possibly your competitor doesn't, or if they do, you certainly want to stay up and current with that competitive environment. So, you know, you got to look at the big picture. Cost savings is very important. We'd be happy to help you go through that. If we knew your trading partners, number of transactions, transaction types, assumptions that you make on the on the cost savings, and then we can extrapolate that out and actually do an ROI on that. But again, the other competitive advantages, the sales differentiation, the service reputation, being recognized as a company that's easy to do business with, being able to expand the breadth of your offering to your existing customers without you adding resources. And again, not to mention the effect it has on inventory turns and quality associated with that. So the UniLink EDI solution provides all of the check marks. And I'm going to focus on the decades of mapping and production support expertise that we have, the continuity of service, but it's very easy to budget. There's no surprises. There's no capital outlays. Our contracts are month to month. We don't want to be difficult to do business with. We think we have to earn your business every single month. And there's really only two types of charges. There's a transaction charge, which gets less based on volume. And we have mapping costs, which are typically a fixed cost per map. And that is it. There's no other charges associated with doing business with UniLink. So this is just a good schematic. You can see UniLink customer, that would be you at the top. The different transaction types. And then you may be connected to buying groups or suppliers or to customers. We can deal with sophisticated APIs when need be, and of course our smart map technology. We deal with just about every protocol and just about any format out there. When we say any preferred, we don't take them on a napkin, but if it's a standard electronic format, even in a spreadsheet, we'll take it and we'll convert it and put it into the EDI process. Let me talk a little bit about the portal, because our guys have been working hard over the last couple of years to upgrade our portal to a GUI interface that allows you to set up or research any transaction type by customer, by document type, by status. You can set email alerts on failed transactions that go to us, go to you, go to someone in your department. It's all pretty much point and shoot. And we're very proud of that. And we were going to embed the video, but we didn't want to cause any technical problems on the presentation. But we'd be happy to email you the video if you just send us a quick note. We'll give you our email addresses at the end of the presentation. We'll send you a 2.5-minute video that kind of walks you through our portal. So the big questions are, what can your company reasonably take on today? You certainly have to factor in the cost of inaction. If you do nothing, that doesn't mean that you're not sitting there losing money on a month-to-month basis. And I'm talking about just the cost of processing the transaction internally versus doing it in an EDI format. If you add in the competitive nature of it and sales, those are factors that we can't really put a number on, but we certainly can show that that doing nothing is one of the most expensive things you can do. Again, inventory turns are all associated with business efficiencies and quality. And I did talk a little bit earlier about the rapid ROI, which your financial people will love to see. If these projects are done, early in the year or halfway through the year, these pay for themselves within the same period. It's only when you do them in December or November that you might not get the ROI until the following January, February. So in all of my career, whether I was buying software, implementing a new project within my company to automate certain functions, even building a house for my own personal use. I'm always faced with the cost, time, and quality dilemma, in that I'm always told that you can only have two of the three. If you want something fast with high quality, it's going to cost more. If you want something with very high quality and you want it cost to be low, it's going to take forever. That's enough analogies and going back and forth. But the net of it is, with this type of value proposition, you actually get all three. And again, it's not a shot in the dark. It's a proven process. We can quantify it. And in fact, you get all three. So the next move is yours. I stole being a change agent from our friends at TUG a couple years ago. That was the theme for the meetings. And again, being reactive is not what you want to be. Proactive. You don't want to be in a position where, if you don't do this, I'm going to work with your competitor. You want to be proactive. You certainly can do it in-house, but it's going to cost more. It's going to require more focus. It's going to require more resources. And my guess is I don't know about the ROI doing it in-house. I've not seen one that we can't beat. Or you can pick a partner that's proven, success-based, no risk, high reward, predictable cost. That's as salesy as I'm going to get, except for my one-line takeaways. As it relates to doing things manually, you can definitely do it, but you can't do it indefinitely. And as one of my old bosses used to tell me, you get on the steamroller or you'll become part of the road. And then my favorite is, I must do something will always solve more problems than something must be done. So we'll take a polling question here, number 2. It's quick. If everybody says no, you are going to hurt my feelings.
We have 28%, 30% that have voted thus far, 18 seconds on the clock. So it's not a high sales pitch or anything like that. We're just looking for rough information to know basically a bit more about our audience. We're up to 45%, 41% voted with 33 seconds. So I'm watching the clock for you, Tony.
Okay.
We'll give it a few more seconds here. We have some straggler votes coming in. And we've had not quite half our online digital participants respond, but I'm going to end the poll now. And there's your results.
All right. I'm sure if they didn't respond, they're probably even more interested.
Possibly. Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll stop sharing the results and let you continue on. Thanks, Tony.
Right, thank you. Okay, so just rough estimates about us. We currently have 20 active Cloud Suite customers that have either come in through Cloud Suite initially or have converted to Cloud Suite. We have another 80 that are pending, looking at their timelines to migrate to the Cloud Suite in really 2021. That's really a typo there. We talked about communication methods earlier. You know, we're pretty wide open. If there's not one on the list, I'm sure we have experience with it or we can add it. And the same with file formats that we support. So that brings us to the end of our session. And let's see how I did on time. 34 minutes, pretty close to being at 35 minutes. So I'll take just 30 seconds to thank TUG again. What a professional group they are. It's unbelievable what they put us through so that we don't waste your valuable time, and we make sure that this presentation goes without any problems at all. And I would like to thank all the participants for taking time today to listen to us. There's our email addresses if you'd like us to send you a video about the portal, or you would like to schedule time for a follow-up 30-minute sort of consultative meeting. We would love to do that, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Back to you, Gloria.
Well, actually, we have some questions. Phil, do you want to go ahead and wrangle those? I know that you can answer some and probably will volley some of them over to Tony. I'm going to come back on and join you on camera. And while Phil's jumping on as well, just let me capture a word here that came into our panelists. Andy Barkas says, and thank you, Andy, UniLink handles our EDI and they are very responsive when we require changes or to discuss new ideas. Highly recommend, exclamation point. So Phil, if you want to jump on camera here with us and unmute yourself, I think what I'll do is turn it over to you until we have to log off and end things. We have about 4 questions so far that I've seen populate.
Okay, let's see. From Dennis, he was asking if the SX.11.19.3 integration is through ION and ETCC. And yes, that is correct. The only thing that you'll do is set up ION to connect via SFTP to our data center. And then from then on, it's BODs into you and BODs out from you through ETCC, just the way it was designed. So we natively speak BODs for you. All right, Dean Wagner, I do IT support. I'm sorry. How often is the product enhanced or upgrades available? Are you meaning through our mapping products? Is that what you're specifically asking, Dean? You could get back to me on that. I'm not quite sure what that means, what product. If you mean our translation product here, we use a continuous integration. So we have changes going in every day for somebody. And then we have a every twice a month scrum here for the larger project changes here.
And I'll leave that one in the open question bank, Phil. And Dean, if you want to jump into chat and let us know in further detail what you're specifically requesting, we can circle back to this. And Phil, I'm going to turn this back over to you. Miriam Berman has the next question.
Yes, it looks like we do ID support for clients. Have you done a comparison on whether using the same van will save cost? And I'm not sure that we've actually done a comparison for that. But we worked with all of the different retailers here, and while they may have a van that they use here, we've never found that to be any obstacle to being able to do work with them.
Phil, I'm going to circle back to Dean Wagner. His question was, how often is the product enhanced or upgrades available? And went on to further delineate in response to your question. He said, yes, the translation product.
Right. Well, as I said, we do a continuous integration here system, so that if we find any things that we need to take care of, they're typically done that day. And then we have a twice a month where we have a registered session for projects that are taking longer to be able to implement. So any corrections or changes are typically done every day. And then twice a month, we do updates that may have longer reaching effects, like changes that you might see in the customer web portal.
And are you seeing Miriam Berman's next question regarding EDI IT support for clients that's populated to the top now?
Well, I did answer that one. What I was talking about is she also said would like to discuss how to integrate with CSD, so we can be able to do that.
Perfect.
And Vincent says, how do we get the web portal? Just send an email to either Tony or myself, and we'll send that to you.
You can tell Phil's the smart one of the two, so.
And Miriam also says, I have worked with UniLink for a few of our clients and have found them responsive. Time and changes are measured in days and not weeks. And what greater testimonial can you get than the one from Miriam, as well as the one from Andy online? I think, gentlemen, that concludes our Q&A that we have thus far. I'll keep an eye on things to have anything else populate. And I'm going to grab the controls back here and touch base with you all about what's coming up with TUG. And I would just like to say thank you so much, Tony and Phil, for sharing your wealth of knowledge about this platform that there seems to be a great deal of interest in today. And as with most of our webinars, this presentation will be available on our TUG website for future reference and viewing, posted to the appropriate forum board with the link for viewing on your next business day. On our next business day, we'd like to invite those of you who are members of TUG to continue this discussion in our online forum board. And then also our next webinars will take place this Friday. So watch your inbox and my forum boards for the announcement with registration links. We have one that's targeted to facts, and the other is our monthly Infor program that's going to be dealing with IDM and an update to the roadmap. For those of you who are not yet members, I have to ask, why not? Please visit our usergroup.org website at www.theusergroup.org and join today. And as they say in Hollywood, folks, that's a wrap.